Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, everybody. I just had a coughing fit whilst the timer was on. I'm like, oh, you know how it is. I'm like, don't choke, don't choke. Oh, that would be awful, wouldn't it? It's the only way to quiet me down, though. I'm afraid that's how it works. Hi, everyone.
Something.
Yes, exactly. So, hi everyone, we're back. My name's Ian. I am the developer relations guy for Idera, and Idera are the parent company of Yellowfin. So we're here. Rob Jones is joining us. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Ian. Hello, everybody.
Yes, we've got a little bit of video lag today, by the way, for everybody. But Rob, you're coming through loud and clear. We can hear you. So, and then just don't move around too much. I think that's what it is. And also joining us is Stephen Ball. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Ian. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we've just been discussing the football or the soccer. As three Brits, we still refer to it as football, but I'm a dual citizen, so I sometimes say soccer and then go, oh, it's so frustrating. Only a Brit will understand why, if I say the word tomato, all the Brits around me cringe like that. Yes, exactly. Okay, so we've got quite a few slides today and quite a lot of content. I think we just go straight into it. Is that
let's crack on in.
Yeah, we're no messing around. So let me share my screen and let's put us in the right places. It's always a bit of a trial. There you go. How's that? I think that's right. So today is, whilst we're recording this, is July the 2nd, 2026. And today's topic is sharing your insights. Which sounds like a very philanthropic thing to do. I'll share my insights with specific people, not just random people in the street, as I once did in Brazil to one poor lady at a bus stop. Long story. Yes, I've told you this, haven't I, about trying to force sausages on some poor lady. It's a long story. Not as perverted as it sounds either, by the way. We are here every Thursday. We literally want to try and encourage you to grab a coffee or tea or whatever your beverage of choice is. We want this fairly relaxed and laid back rather than a lecture. And we try and cover a different topic every week. And Rob and Stephen are the experts, and I'm really here just to drive things and click on slides and just generally look cool. You know how it goes. But here's the team. The kind of sometimes people here are Maria, not always here. And Montana is off doing some kind of important demo today. He's very, very intensely occupied in that.
Yeah.
So this is our agenda. Stephen, do you want to go through and what we're talking about today?
Yeah, I can do. I was just going to say it's kind of quite a topical, really, around Montana, because the demo that he's working on is all about sharing the insights in an embedded application. So,
oh, really? That's
cool.
funny.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. So I think there's loads of stuff within the product that is, about trying to take your insights and then turn them into actionable insights. The whole point of anything that you're doing with BI and analytics is always about understanding your data so you can make the right decisions for the business. And those decisions, as we've spoken about before, you need to have the data behind them to drive the right decision. And to help drive the right decision, sometimes you're going to have agreements or disagreements or conversations that need to happen around that data. And that's what today's session is all about. It's about how you take that data from your system and how you kind of share those insights, how you can do that in a number of different ways. We've got some great things with presents and stories within Yellowfin, which each have their own kind of use case and reason behind them. And as we've spoken about in other coffee club sessions, around governance and data security, it's really important that you keep that content within a governed platform. You don't want to be taking all the data and stuff and taking it outside and then allowing potentially the wrong people to see the wrong data, or to have data that's then leaking outside, or having data that's then duplicated in multiple different locations that you've then got to manage and hope that you're keeping the right data combined and stuff. So
In fact, it's a legal requirement in many cases to not do that. So it's not a case of it's best practices and that's what you should do. It is actually probably, legally indefensible if you don't do that. So
and then obviously AI is a big conversation point at the moment, and I think Rob and I are having conversations every day, pretty much with different people around how they can access into their data and how they can use AI safely and how they can kind of keep all of those bits together. So we will touch into that as we kind of come through today's session as well. So I think the first part is all about sharing your insights. So Rob, do you want to kick off on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the headline really there is just making the point that it's interesting how it used to be expensive to get your content out there and publish it, and now actually it's almost flipped around. It's like it's so easy to get stuff out onto the internet and share stuff with every man and his dog, but actually a lot of the time we need to be a bit more careful about what we're sharing and put more time and money into keeping things private that really should stay private. And the cost of not doing that well, of leaking information that shouldn't leak, can be really expensive with all the various fines and things that are around. So all of the tools within Yellowfin are designed to give you the option of keeping your content under lock and key, so to speak, by which we mean behind a username and password, so people can only see it if they're logged into Yellowfin. And that's by far the most secure way of sharing content that's created in Yellowfin. Obviously, we do also provide options for exporting it if that is what you want to do. But the core message is think twice and then think again before you export content out into PDFs or docx's or whatever it might be, because once it leaves the platform and isn't behind a Yellowfin password anymore, you've not got any real control over where it goes. So think carefully. And a lot of the philosophy of what we've tried to build with the product is aimed at making it possible for you to do what you need to do without taking the data out of the platform. So that's the kind of rationale behind a lot of the functionality. You'll see things like dashboard code mode. I think I've touched on it in a number of earlier sessions, where it's kind of your get out of jail free card and lets you do whatever it is you need to do with that data. You can integrate, you can reach out and pull more data in, you can call APIs in other applications and so on. And it makes it so there's, in many cases, really no need to take the data that you've generated or processed within Yellowfin outside the platform. So keep it inside, keep it secure wherever you can.
The Yellowfin has all these little things that I keep hearing about. Oh wow! It's like every time we do this, and I know Yellowfin pretty well. Every time we do one of these webinars, there's something else I learn about it, and that's I didn't know you could do that. The code mode, yes, I really like that. And whilst we've got this slide up, can I just say what a fantastic name the name Clay Shirky is.
It's great, isn't it?
I mean, I went through life Ian Barker, and of course at school people used to call me Woof Woof and stuff like that. And I briefly did work in a kennels, worst job for a person with the surname Barker. But I think if I was called Clay Shirky, I would have had to have become a detective or something, because it sounds like I go around solving crimes or something. What a fantastic name. But of course he's a scholar and professor, so I guess that it's not quite as dramatic, but even so, great name. So his observation is technically valid. Failing to keep private that which should be kept private cannot just be expensive. I think the grammar's a bit off there, but ruinously expensive. And this is the thing about,
you have to say it failing to keep private that which should be kept private can be not just expensive but ruinously expensive. It's a Harry Potter reference for anyone who's
well, you're clearly more
I know you're a wizard with data, Rob, but
yeah,
exactly, Expelliarmus, and then it turns off.
Just think of Professor Umbridge and
McGonagall. Yes, I remember Professor McGonagall.
But
yes, exactly. But it's true. I mean, although we're joking about that, compliance is no joke. I mean, it really is quite a significant problem, and if you get it wrong, looking back at the cost of actually having done it properly is minuscule in comparison to the cost of having done it incorrectly and getting caught out. And the "It will never happen to us" is the most common thing that people say when it's gone wrong. You know, is "We never thought it would happen to us." Well, yeah, you and millions of others, and it does happen.
Don't panic.
Yeah, I mean, you get struck by lightning 3 times. It's happened, you know, and there was one guy who kept getting struck all the time, but then I found out it was a sheep farmer or something in Australia, and it's sort of like, you're out in the field all the time, you know, it's kind of self-selecting problem there, isn't it? So yes, do you want to talk more about these points that we've got on the slide there about publishing content and PDFs and things like that, or do you?
I think we probably talked most of that. Let's just skip to the next slide and.
Yeah, that's this one.
Yeah, exactly. So really, what the purpose of this slide is really just to make anyone who's not already deeply aware of it aware of the content types that we have in Yellowfin. So essentially, we've got the starting point whenever you're trying to create insight is usually a report. Either you're writing a report or you're using AI to help you to write a report nowadays. But it's the kind of the idea is it's a single query, generally speaking. Like everything else within Yellowfin, that's a little bit of a movable feast. But normally, you can think of it as a single query, and on top of that query, or built from that query, you can have multiple visualizations, so multiple charts. You can have a table with all the sort of formatting associated with that if you want as well. So in most respects, the table view of your data is just another visualization as far as dashboard is concerned, for example. A dashboard being the thing you tend to do with your reports. You take your visualizations and say, right, now I want to organize them somehow. And your options then really are dashboards, presentations, or stories. And the message here is about choosing the right way of packaging it, depending on what it is you're trying to achieve. But also, we'll look in a little bit more detail about how you might want to subtly tailor your report, depending on which of those you are going to use. So, I mean, a dashboard is usually about presenting the same kind of information over and over again. So you go in there, you look at it, it's telling you what is the current state of play. So almost by definition, the reports that you include in a dashboard will tend to have what we would call dynamic date filters. So it'll be not the 27th of June, but 3 days ago. They get that right? 4 days ago, whatever it is, some kind of dynamic date, current date minus n days, or current date minus n months, or a range of time. It might be this year to date. All of those kind of predefined date filters that Yellowfin has many of. And your dashboard then will show you the current view of that data whenever you open it. Presentations and stories tend to be a bit different. They tend to be more about, presentations can be either. They're a sort of interesting halfway house. So they can either be a kind of one-off piece of analysis where you've sort of looked at a data set, or you've looked at, a fresh data feed, and you're just describing it in a kind of one-off kind of way. Or they can be something that you present regularly. So a nice use case for a present is a monthly board pack where you walk through a series of reports every month. They ask you the same, maybe the same boring questions, maybe different questions, but you're providing structure to a meeting by walking through a series of visualizations, and that's a nice use of present. It could also be something like you're putting it in the hands of your sales reps, and they're going out and walking through a series of charts that they have to share with customers or prospective customers. Those kind of things, wherever you want to get someone to guarantee that particular pieces of information are actually being shared on a regular basis. A present can be quite a nice way of doing that. And again, if you really want to go the extra mile, you can build in using dashboard code mode. You can build in a bit of a database write back to confirm you've actually shown that slide to whoever it is that needs to see it, and just get that recorded in the database. That's not built in functionality, but it's the kind of thing that you can augment Yellowfin with if you need to. So that's the two kinds for present. And then stories are almost always one-off piece of analysis. So it's like you're looking at the data for last month, and the assumption is the data isn't likely to change for last month. So you're writing commentary about what happened there, or last week, or whatever the time frame might be. It's a fixed piece of data. You're analyzing it. You're presenting your findings in a relatively fixed way. So think of it like a newspaper article.
I prefer to think of it as like a newsletter creator for people that have to regularly update like teams of disparate people. The sales team and the pre-sales team and the engineering team. We actually get some internally in Idera, and there's one that comes out weekly that talks about what's going on in the industries that our various companies work in, converses against what we're doing. So this particular person, this competitor or whatever, has done this, and here's what we doing that is either comparable to what they're doing, beats what the new thing is, or is working towards equality. And it is a snapshot, and I think that's what stories are. The other thing is, if you regularly produce blogs with stats in, or like an internal newsletter or something like that, stories I think are perfect for that as well, where you have a narrative that explains the numbers in depth. So it's not just a visual thing, but you can also have additional stuff. Personally, for me, stories is one of my favorite features of Yellowfin. Dashboards, of course, that's like the bread and butter, I think, of anybody presenting figures. But stories for me, I think, is a little bit more of a it has a lot of applications in a lot of different areas, and typically if you're going to have to gather some information together and then present it to someone else as a document that they can go and consume on the train or whatever, on the commute back home, or even just during the working hours, that's what stories does. So for me, that's why I like that particular feature. I think it's great.
Yeah, we had a really interesting use for stories actually whilst we were building a demo for 917 when 917 came out, and the data that we were ingesting in to build one of the demos, that it actually had a change in the way the data was being represented. So it was to do with UK car registration details, and the New Year's data that came available. It was like, oh great, let's pull that in, and we've got one more year's worth of data in there. The car category for the vehicle, if it was like petrol, hybrid, diesel, or whatever, instead of using normal casing, was all capitalized for that year's data set. So we're then running analysis and kind of going, what's going on here? It's not pulling up the same kind of content. It looks like there's been no sales. And we're then able to query using the AI, and it kind of came back and went, oh yeah, here's the values that we're seeing for this year. And we're like, we can see exactly what the issue is now. So we're actually able to use a story to actually make the commentary in there and then send that back to the team that was doing the data ingestion, and get them to be able to use the tasks within Yellowfin to notify that it had been updated and all that kind of side of things. And the great thing with the stories is whatever insight you're looking at and you're finding, they then store on your timeline as well. So if you go back and you run data for that period, you can go find those stories as well, which is really, really useful. So you pick up the narrative outside of the data along with the search that you do in a year's time or 2 years' time, so which is really powerful.
It's worth just reiterating as well the AI part of things. I mean, it's very divisive topic, AI, because there's kind of three camps. Some people that embrace it 100% and think it's going to solve every problem they've ever had, including ones they never had in the first place, which is great. And lots of, hey, I do my whole task now in 2 minutes instead of 40 days, that kind of thing, which is great. And for some people, that's probably true as well. There is another camp of people that are like, yeah, I think it's got a use in appropriate arena, and I'm convinced by this use of it, but I'm not so convinced by this use of it. I want to embrace it, but with caution. And then there's a third camp, which is, I think AI is, a very bad idea, and it worries me for all sorts of reasons, about losing control of data or losing control of mechanisms that are going on in the company. And of course, the thing to remember about Yellowfin is it is largely what we would call bring your own key, and it's also optional. So we're not putting this in and it's just on and you've got no choice. That's not what we're doing. We're not shoehorning it on you and saying, sorry, you bought Yellowfin, here comes the AI with it, whether you like it or not.
Well, I think it's important just to remember there's two flavors of AI as well here. So Yellowfin has had AI stuff in it for 6-7 years or so, quite a long time. It was registered and identified by Gartner as one of the leaders in the industry around the AI content that it originally brought in. But that was all based on machine learning. So there was nothing going off to generative AI or anything else like that. This was all running locally on the machine, doing multi-dimensional analysis of the data to review it, understand it, and then provide back some readable insights about the data with automatically generated insights. And that's great. What we're able to do nowadays is we're able to use the AI to actually, the generative AI, to actually enhance the narrative and make it more readable for humans, but also to do advanced searching, which allows us to share deeper insights. So, going back to the car registration data, eco-friendly isn't in the car data set, but it's a term that I might want to use when I'm trying to find something to share with people. And so by having the AI work with the data, we can then benefit from that additional language. And obviously, we've already got business rules and terminology built into the views. We already say, engineering call this a widget, and finance call it a thingamabob, and the sales team call it a super ace ticket or whatever, I don't know. But we can actually put that verbiage into the views already, so that metadata is already existing. And then when you're trying to search on the data and understand it, it then understands what you're actually asking for, so you get the right stuff to share and talk about. So,
there's also my kind of category as well of that, which is the person who's too lazy to actually bother to think too much, and therefore lets the AI do a lot of it for them. I think that the concept of making life easier is very underrated by people. AI just helps me not have to think. I mean, I'm a professional thinker for a living. I have, in a previous job, my job description literally said, and I'm not joking, said, "You are required to be the smartest guy in the room." That was a job description, which was a bit of a challenge because some of the people I met were very smart. But it does help you be the smartest guy or girl in the room. AI is a very good augmenter of your skills. If you're trying to ask it something, query something or something like that, the AI assistance in Yellowfin does actually make a life a lot easier. I mean, if any of you have been watching this, have been in IT or development for long enough, you have sat there and struggled with SQL queries that just didn't work. It should work on paper, and oh my gosh, I'm going to go and Google this and work out how to do an inner outer join and this and that and that. With the AI, it actually makes life an awful lot easier. It's like Google came into your room and helped you type in the query, and that's really, actually, in many cases, is what's happening. And that, who wants to be as productive but not have to work so hard? Me, I'm one of them. I just want to sit back and let everything happen for me. So, don't. It's for anybody watching. I think if you're a little bit honest with yourself, wouldn't you rather be doing all the work but actually not having to work as hard doing it? That's what AI can help you do. And the way it's implemented in Yellowfin is also, like I say, taking out the risk, taking away a lot of the elements that people might object to when they say, "I'm not so sure about AI." We're trying to do it in a way that works within what you are comfortable with, rather than what some Silicon Valley entrepreneurial trillion-dollar finance team I think is comfortable.
But I think one of the things that actually kind of fires onto that is we've got a very mature query engine within Yellowfin. The layer that actually does the querying of the data is very, very powerful. There's so much built into it, and that's what always does the querying of the data. What we do is we use the AI to actually help provide back, using our internal syntax that's been tried and tested for a number of years, what we need to ask, and then it knows and understands all the business rules about what part of the year do you mean when you say Q1, that kind of stuff. That is then what kind of fires in and runs all the queries underneath the hood, which is pretty cool. And kind of to tie it back to what you said there about keeping things simple and easy, and I know we're going to move on and talk about polished presentations in just a second.
Right.
But presents is one of those things that we see time and time again, making life easy for people, because building that regular content once. And what do you want to do once you've got that content? You've always got follow-on questions. So having that live interactivity about it is absolutely fantastic. And that's really what helps set it apart from using things like PowerPoint as well. So, I know, Rob, you're really big onto your presentation side of things and some of the stuff on that area. So do you want to do the intro on this one again?
Yeah, so I mean, the broader theme of all of these sessions, I think, is just to help you as the the listeners to get a feel for all of the stuff that's in Yellowfin and help you to avoid some of the potential pitfalls and so on, as well as getting the best out of the product. So presentations are great and they're really useful. One of the things that you might not immediately be aware of is that there are themes in there. So just as with PowerPoint and Google Slides, you can have template presentations. In Yellowfin, we have themes, and they're really useful, and they're really useful in a couple of ways. I mean, so they help you in some cases to provide a reusable structure. So if you're particularly in an enterprise setting, but if you have a policy that says, right, we always have a title page that looks like this, it has this content, you can build a theme which has got
placeholders kind of thing, way of doing things.
Yeah, it's like give it your look and feel. One of the most important things with any kind of information sharing is consistency. The more consistent it is, the easier it is for your users to consume, because they know where to look for things. And if they want to know, well, where did this come from? How old is this deck? What's the data in here? They know where to look because you put it in the same place every time. If they've got the deck and they see the title, they go, oh, I know that on slide 3 there's going to be this chart because it always is, and that kind of thing. So having a repeatable structure is really useful. And the idea of themes is just to help you to build your presentations consistently and as quickly as possible. So yeah, check them out if you haven't already done so. You wouldn't normally, well, it depends. Sometimes you can include the visualization within it. That can make sense. If you're kind of almost getting the presentation itself if you do include the actual reports and so on. The theme is more about the from my point of view anyway, it's more about the static content. So if you've got corporate logos,
framework, the framework in which you put the bits. Yeah,
exactly. But you can go the extra step and you can include content as well. You don't necessarily need to use a theme for that, because you can just copy a presentation and then just update filters and so on. Hold that thought, because we'll come back to it in just a second. Overall, and you can't say this one often enough, when you're building presentations, just like any other content really, focus on the message. So make sure that, first of all, presentation is the right tool. Would you be better off using a story? Would you be better off using a dashboard? Just make sure you've worked through that and be sure that presentation is the right way to go. But once you've got that, leave out the clutter. So I'm saying, having said that the theme is about allowing you to put all of the corporate logos and all that kind of stuff in, it's like, yeah, but don't go mad on it. Sort of make sure that you're not putting so many of those in that you can't see the charts, and that they shouldn't be distracting. The idea of all of those things really is to make people feel at home, make sure that they are able to identify the content they're looking at. So everything there should have a purpose. If there's something there that's not adding any value, get rid of it, because it's just makes the presentation harder to consume.
Yeah, less is more. Literally, less is more. Yeah, I think that's true of anything as well. The element that's quite important there is you're trying to communicate something, and if you overwhelm people with information, you're actually blurring the message. Sometimes you have to pick what is the specific message that I want to get across here in the presentation. The idea of the theme is also to encourage people to stay in their lane, so to speak. Here's an idea, you may well give that theme out to other people. Here's an idea of the framework we want to use for a specific presentation we're asking people to produce. It can help, it can help make sure that they're keeping within what has been decided to be the necessary information to get across.
Yeah, there we go. There's a really nice example of a theme that fits in with the coffee club. So like title.
Just looking for some puns. You haven't actually got any puns in there today. It's very
no, well, I got a message from one of our regular viewers that they're playing pun bingo and they need a low number to complete a line, so we're keeping it down this week.
Yeah. Well,
so really,
I've been there, seen and done it. Yeah, been there.
So the key thing.
Anyway, let's grind on. Let's make sure that we. Yeah. So. Yeah, really, we've got away from what we were talking about on this slide, really, haven't we? So creating a stream, providing a structure, again, to make sure that if you've got disparate people who are producing that information, because they are the ones that understand the information, a theme can help make sure that when they communicate their findings of the information or their results, that they're doing it in a way that everybody else is expecting and understanding. Familiarity is a good thing, actually. The phrase is familiarity breeds contempt, but it also helps breed understanding. If you get a different graph every week and it looks it's trying to provide the same information, but every time you look at it, it's a different representation. It adds to that kind of cognitive load that you've got of trying to understand. Sometimes some quite complex figures as well, particularly sales figures with a trend or marketing. I mean, marketing is like a whole nother science with click open rates and how many of those people were leads and how many weren't. And just don't make me go there.
Right, we won't go there, Ian, otherwise we won't be here.
But it's good information to get. It seems like there are lots of roles in businesses that people don't appreciate are actually very significant data consumers in order to actually get an understanding of where the business has been, how successful the business is, and how successful it's going to be. Because for salespeople, for example, you need to know there's a pipeline coming through of sales. Because if depending on the way you do sales, I mean, some sales are instant. You go and buy your coffee and you consume it straight away. But there's a pipeline to producing that coffee. If you know the weather's getting colder, and that means more coffees are available, people are going to buy more coffee, then you've already got to have a pipeline for your supply of beans or whatever it is that your coffee shop is, maybe pre-ground beans, or if you're American, when it comes to September, it's pumpkin spice everything. So you need to make sure you've got
mock up your coffee.
Yeah, do a mock-up. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Anyway, so you said we're short on the
talk about that last day. Yeah. Sorry, later. I mean, yes. Anyway, so.
Well, now we've got a cup full of ideas on the theme side.
Yes, I think we can probably go on to the next slide, shall we?
Yeah.
I think this is one of the important points around the data. When you're talking about data and using data, data is either as it is now, or as it was at the point that you wanted, or at the point the conversation happened. And one of the things that's really important, if you're spotting things and you're having conversations around things, is do you want the data always to be updated, or do you want to have it bookmarked and saved through? And that's one of the kind of important features that fits within Yellowfin, and being able to bookmark your data and to use that as it was.
So a set point in time, is that what you're saying?
Well, hang on, careful. So that's partly why I wanted to get these. There are two concepts in Yellowfin. There's the one on this slide, which is the bookmark, and there's another one which we'll talk about in a moment, which is the snapshot. The bookmark first, on the first point there, it's describing it as dimensional context. Now, okay, that's one of my phrases. What it means is it's the starting point. What it does is it fixes all the values. If you've got filters, particularly user prompts in your report, so ones where the user can choose what they want the value to be, a bookmark fixes all of those things as a starting point. It doesn't necessarily mean that they can't change them once they've loaded it, but that's what you're going to see to start with. And so it's a way of making sure that they are at least, I'm going to use the phrase, on the same page as you when they open the content, be that a report, a dashboard, or a presentation, because you can include bookmarks, which is like a report with the filter value set.
Is it kind of like saving a bunch of settings, all over a bunch of different places, and then automatically recovering back those settings and those options and the checkboxes you ticked and all those kind of things? So when you start off, you don't have to do that all again. It's ready for you to go. but you're maybe then querying on a fresh, different set, same set of data, but actually, it's possibly changed since the last time you set the bookmarks.
There's two things. So I mean, the bookmark anything that can be fixed will be fixed by a bookmark. But if your filter values include predefined filters, like for example last week, and then you come along and you open that same report, you open that same bookmark that you saved 3 weeks later, it's going to be looking at a different week. So the other things will be exactly what you set. So if you chose a product category, that'll be the same, and it'll still be last week, but last week won't be the same week that it was when you created the report. Now, very often that's what you want, and that's why that functionality exists. You just say, right, I want you to start by navigating. Usually it might be the top of a hierarchy, and then leave them to drill down further if they want to. But you've got to be a little bit careful with the time. Make sure that is what you want. The next option, which we're going to talk about in a second, is a snapshot, and that goes the extra step of saying, right, I'm actually going to fix the data as well. And if you do that, then you're really fixing all of the parameters, and it's also fixing the time dimension. So the data at that point is unchangeable, and the user can't change any of those filter values. So even if the report starts having user prompts and things in it, if you save a snapshot, those effectively get fixed and then removed, so there's no drop downs for anyone to pick from. In a story, that's usually what you want, because you're talking about, I want the fixed view. What you don't want is for the data to get reloaded and look totally different. Particularly, the example that Stephen brought up of where, you found a problem with the data, which you're hoping is going to get fixed. You probably want the story to show the data with the problem as you found it, not the data as it was after it being fixed, because otherwise the story won't make any sense at all.
So with bookmarks, for example, you could set up a thing and say, okay, if you're conducting, say, a mail shot campaign or something like that, how many people did we reach with our campaign last week in the US region, for a particular UTM code or something like that. For marketing people and would probably understand that that's quite important. But of course, what you mean by last week really changes. That's what you're saying. That's the variable part of it, because last week, for us right now would be the last week in June, but in September it would be the last week in August, for example. Exactly. So bookmarks allow you to have that kind of movable window, but you don't have to go, I have to pick America again, and I have to do this query again to filter down just the click opens on my mail campaign for the United States or for Europe or whatever the region I'm looking at. That's all fixed because it can be fixed. But that underlying, open data of the emails or visits on a website or even sales or something like that. So, sales calls to a phone call, if people live in the Stone Age and still use phones, they can actually have that changing each time. So, very interesting. And if we go on to snapshots, then, like you say, that's kind of similar but different. It takes the data variable portion of it and basically says, well, this is it. You basically wanted a frozen view of things at this point. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. So at that point, you really are you're saving away a copy of the query results, which are then used whenever that report is rendered, be that in a story or a dashboard or a present. You don't often use snapshots with a dashboard, because it's kind of the nature of dashboards that you want them to change when you open them up. But it's quite common in certain kinds of present. If it's that fixed view one-off analysis, a snapshot's a good idea, and it's usually a good idea in a story. We'll come on to it in a minute when we talk about the stories. The kind of where it gets a little bit more interesting is where you're using AI to generate the stories for you or help you build reports and so on. At the moment, anyway, AI doesn't include the predefined filters we were talking about. So the AI isn't going to have a filter predicate which says last week. You can ask it to give you data for last week, and it will then say, well, what's the date today? Pick the appropriate dates and hard code them into a report. So it's almost like building a snapshot itself, but you've still got to be a bit careful, because if the data does get restated, as in your data warehouse is reloaded or new data is loaded in, you still could get different results. So there you need to be a little bit, and that is an area that we're looking at going forward as to how we can make that more robust, because it's a nice workflow to use AI to help you to generate a report which you can then embed into a story, and most of the time it will work absolutely fine. But there is just that slight watch out that says, if you want to be absolutely sure the data doesn't change behind the scenes, you might want to have a slightly different workflow which says, I'll use the AI to generate the report, but I'll then go in and edit the report and make sure that, or I'll create a snapshot from that report and include that in my story, just to be absolutely sure, the belt and braces approach. For most purposes, it won't change. And if you know that your data warehouse doesn't get restated, then go for your life and just use the AI. But it's worth just being aware. And that's the purpose of these sessions, really, is to bring people, make people aware of those issues so they can then avoid the pitfalls.
Yeah, and when people talk about AI, it's worth pointing out that it's probably more accurate to call it simulated intelligence, because all these large language models, if you go and ask them about, if you say what is today, most of them cannot tell you, because they are not actually intelligent. They are based on a snapshot of data at a certain time, and then it is simulating human intelligence, and it does a very, very good job of it, but it's got limitations, and some of those limitations are not obvious. And like you say, getting to grips with what it can and can't do, and that's not a Yellowfin problem, by the way. It's a worldwide how AI works kind of problem. That typically, if you say to it what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time, or what's the date in 2 weeks' time, it'll say I don't know, because it's based on a knowledge like a Google search, where Google wouldn't know what today is without actually having that specifically programmed in. So anyway, I think it's a bit of an esoteric AI problem there.
Are there any top tips in terms of picking snapshots or kind of bookmarks for use with presentations, and especially kind of thinking around things with broadcasts? So if you're kind of coming back and having the regular content shared around month after month.
So if you're doing
on the spot, Stephen, I can see it doesn't normally happen.
And it's back to sharing the insight again. I mean, broadcast, there isn't actually a slide on broadcast, but it's a good point. It's a key part of sharing the insights is regularly sending out updated versions of the data. Now, if you're going to use a broadcast to do that, you would need to be a little bit cautious about how you do that. If you send out a PDF, obviously it's hard coded. That is the data as it is. But where we're discouraging you from doing that because you want to keep the data on the platform, you do have to be a little bit careful about making sure your users understand what they're receiving. You can schedule a broadcast with a bookmark if you want to, and what that does then is obviously fix the dimensional values. In reality, when you schedule a report, it's going to use the values that you had selected anyway. If you use a bookmark, that just means update. If you weren't already looking at those filter values, then change to those and then run the report for all of the users you want to run it for. And it's worth reiterating that when you run a report in the context of a broadcast schedule, it runs that report for each user that you're sending it to make sure that it applies their permissions and access rights. So if they're able to see different rows of the data, then the broadcast they receive will reflect that if it's sent out as PDFs and so on. And if they get a link when they log in, obviously that will apply their security as well.
It's worth maybe just taking a second to explain what you mean by broadcast. It's not broadcast like we're doing, broadcasting to world. It's a specific Yellowfin.
Yes, it's the name for a scheduled distribution of either a report or a dashboard. And you see there's an icon in the toolbar which you can use, assuming you've got permissions, to create a schedule to distribute either reports or dashboards. And you can send it out in a variety of formats. So the most secure is to just send out a link. either via email or to a user's timeline, which is another feature we haven't really looked at so far, but we might come back to in another session. Or you can send it out as exported content. You can export it in a range of different formats. If you want to send it out, it can be PDF, docx, as a spreadsheet, XLSX format. Sometimes we see people actually distributing data that way. Obviously, we wouldn't really encourage that, because we'd rather you left the data in Yellowfin and queried it there, and it's usually the best place to query it. But if you did need to, you can send a CSV file or a text file out to your users, and there are use cases now and again where that can make sense. It's there if you need it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's an appropriate amount of extracted data that you can share as a spreadsheet. So maybe people have to tick some boxes on a spreadsheet or something like that. And you need to have but what you're exporting is the key moment. That is the moment where you need to say, I need to make sure that what is happening here is compliant, that I'm not actually sharing information that I shouldn't share. We get things like compliance requests for people to be removed off mailing list, and I noticed a problem in one of the reports. When I replied back, I actually made sure that the screenshot I've taken of, by the way, there's an issue here, that I actually blurred out the rest of the information in this kind of narrow screenshot, so that I could only show the two lines that were duplicated. And that's because the first thing I thought was, this is about people who have asked to be removed from a list. And so handling their data is quite crucial. But it was a little bit of an example where you need to say, I don't know whether you should be sharing it this way. There might be a different way, a better way of sharing the data that means that people are not losing sovereignty over the data. And by sovereignty, we mean someone somewhere is the king of that data or the queen of that data, and they own it. That's what a king or a queen tends to do in the old days of monarchy. That was an absolute monarchy. But sovereignty could be, also applied to an independent republic or something like that. I mean, France would say that it's French sovereign soil. So it doesn't matter how you think of it. Someone somewhere is that the data is theirs to ensure that they have domain over, they rule over. And the minute that the data goes off to somewhere else, then they lose the ability to rule that data and decide the fate of it and what it can and can't do. So yeah, it's important. So tell me a story. Now, wasn't it Max Bygraves that used to say that? I don't know whether you.
I thought it was Jack and Ori, wasn't it?
No, I want to tell you a story. That's what Max Bygraves used to say. You're probably too young, Stephen. I
think even I'm too young for that one.
Oh my word! Yes, don't show my age. Yeah.
No, tell me a story. That's all Jack and Ori, isn't it? Jack and Ori, tell me.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny. Dirk was on last week, and he was saying how old he was, and I'm actually older. So I'm like, oh, okay. It is what it is. He's like, you look younger than you are. I'm like, I don't think I do, but yeah, okay. Anyway, tell me a story, Jack and Ori. However we want to do this. And most Americans have confused about what on earth we're talking about.
I think that's going to miss everybody who's not from the UK. So it's kids' TV program thing from many years
ago. And Play Away and all those kind of things from the 70s as well. But anyway, so people continue to believe dashboards tell data stories. They don't. A dashboard can surface trends, anomalies, and patterns, but it rarely provides context for why something happened, or a clear narrative that guides interpretation. By Brent Dykes, author of Effective Data Storytelling. Is this the kind of thing you've got on yourself, Rob? I feel like you've got an extensive book collection somewhere.
AI is very helpful. I'll freely
admit. Yes.
I had to weed through a lot of quotes before I found one that I liked, but
you're shooting down your reputation here. I just imagine you have some kind of amazing bookcase somewhere with ladders going up there. You go, I've got a book about data storytelling. Just wait while I go and get it. Shimmying up this wooden ladder like the Hogwarts library or something.
Yeah.
So what we would like to say about telling stories then, think of a story as a data-centric blog post. Is that factually correct, would you say? I'm guessing it is. It's your slide, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah. No. Okay, good.
So, effectively, what we're saying is, yes, your dashboard is great for putting information out there, but it doesn't really convey insight. If you want people to help your users to understand what the information actually means, then a story is one of the tools alongside presentations that can help you to do that, because it gives you the flexibility to wrap the visualizations, wrap the data in your own narrative. So it's where you get to tell the story. Say what you want to say what they need to hear in order to understand what the data is actually saying. And then it's really just a question of carefully selecting the appropriate visualizations to tell the story. So I mean, you can start different ways. I mean, you might be looking at a dashboard and going, oh my gosh, things are really bad. Does everyone understand how bad they are? I better tell them how bad they are and why I think they're as bad as they are. Or it might be fantastic. It's like, great guys, this is going fantastic.
Look how good we're doing. Yes, yeah, exactly.
We better order some more of this and start, turn up to crank up the manufacturing rate and all that sort of thing. Whatever it is that you need to convey, it allows you to combine that message with the actual data that supports the message. So whether you think of it as, here's the story, I better explain it, or I've got a message which I can now support with data, they're two sides of the same coin. The story is about helping you to put together a package of facts, figures, and narrative. And the top tips really is make sure you're clear about what you want to say. It's like anything else you write. It's like edit it until it's really clear what you want to say. Don't say anything else. And then some tips about how to build those things. So you can use you can insert existing reports. So if there's already a report, if you're looking at something on a dashboard, you think, right, I want to use that and I want to say something about it, you can insert it into a story. If you have a point that you want to make, or you want to ask a follow-up question, then you can start your story, and then you can use maybe AI NLQ or guided NLQ to help you to write the question, and get an extra visualization that you can embed in the story, and we can see that on the next slide. Top tips really is, as we've touched on a couple of times now, if you're using stories, it's usually best to avoid either to avoid using reports with dynamic filters, or if you do use reports with dynamic filters, then to use a snapshot which fixes the data to what you're actually looking at. As we talked about both those now. And then when it comes to publishing your story, well, again, you've got the options. You publish it, it'll be available for anyone that finds it in Yellowfin. To help them to find it, you can push it to them either by email, via their timelines, or you can embed a stories widget on a dashboard, for example. So what you might have is a dashboard that everybody sees when they log into your Yellowfin system, and that dashboard can have a stories widget which just lists the most recent stories in it. So
I love this feature. I mean, Yellowfin's a pleasure to talk about, because I like all the kind of variations on what you can do. I mean, I love statistics. It was the one thing that when I first started out as a developer, like a pro developer in a software house, I worked on a statistics package for a couple of years, 2.5 years, and I actually fell in love with the idea. I know it sounds boring, and it's such a nerdy thing, but it's a lot of fun, to produce statistics and dashboards and things. And this was in the 80s. Yes, I am that old. This was in the 80s, so it was all hardcore development, and lots of people would give me instructions that boiled down the mathematics into things I could understand, to produce the stats. But Yellowfin's exciting because of the way it can make the use of the numbers that get produced actually tell a story. The telling me a story is actually the whole point of it, is saying, here's the picture, the pretty picture, that's the dashboard, and here's a gauge that goes red or yellow or whatever, however you want to represent that to mean good, bad, or ugly, or whatever, or just to encourage people. Look at how many tickets, for example, for sales or something like that, we've sold versus how many we've got. We've got a little indicator to show how far along we are to our target.
Sorry. I think one of the important things around stories as well is, when you're telling a story, who do you want to hear that story? And with the security level of things, Rob, you know better than I do around how the security setup works with access into these things.
Well, so with a story, obviously who gets to see it will depend in many ways on how you choose to share it. But if you publish it where you publish it into a folder, that will the folder you publish it into will determine who can see it within Yellowfin. If you you're gonna test my knowledge here. Actually, if you publish it by sending it to people as a PDF, I'm not 100% sure what they'll see then, because it's not like a broadcast at that point. It's actually I think it's going to be the person who creates it is going to send it out as they see it. But that's one to check. To be perfectly, I haven't tried that one.
One of the things if you do connect into it, you've got the ability to restrict it within the folders, but also because of the views are running on the reports as well, you've also got the if you've got any row level security built into the views, that can potentially reduce. Well, that will reduce down what you see within it as well. So again, the area manager will be able to see the whole area. The store manager will be able to see their store, because although they've got access to the story, that's what they've got access to see within the data as well.
So that's certainly true. If you've just embedded the report or you've embedded a bookmark, that will be true. It will, what they actually see in the story will be affected by their own access permissions. If you include a snapshot, that's not true. They will definitely see exactly what you as the story creator is seeing, and that's likely to be what you want. Because unless what you're doing is writing something like a bit of a kind of guide to how to use particular kinds of analytics, and it's more of a kind of interactive guide where you might conceivably want someone to see something that was tailored to them, but that's a bit niche. A normal case, you're going to want them to see a snapshot, and that's why we sort of emphasized it's kind of important to think about how do you make sure they see what you're seeing when you write the story, because your narrative in the normal case will be based on what you're seeing when you write the story, and that's what you want. That's what you want them to be looking at. But you are right; it will potentially be what they see could potentially vary because of their access permissions as well, if you don't take a snapshot.
Just to call out one of the acronyms we've got there as well, because we have to remember that people are seeing this. Not everybody is going to understand what we're talking about for some of the terms. So AI NLQ is artificial intelligence, obviously, so the AI is helping a natural language query. So when we talk about guided NLQ helps you type in a query, but gives suggestions about what the next part of the sentence of a query. So if you think of those who are familiar with SQL, you might say select these fields from this database and narrow it down to, order it alphabetically or something like that, and limit it to the first 10 records or something like that. NLQ allows you to make that a much more intuitive process, and guided NLQ really does do the prediction ahead of time of what the potential next word in one of the queries will be. So if you say select, and it knows you're going to specify some fields or some other field like that. Same with aggregation and all the rest of it. The AI NLQ goes one step further and actually does a lot more in terms of helping you. So it's good stuff. Okay, I'm very aware of time is pressing on, so we probably need to. Weirdly enough, there you go. Oh, I didn't even notice that was the next slide, but do yourself a favor and get familiar with Yellowfin's story-related AI features. Well, it's almost like I knew what was coming next, didn't it?
Yeah, just before we get onto this one, just one last thing that I wanted to mention on the stories is that one of the things I absolutely love, when you've got a story, when you're talking about things and you want to share it with people, especially ahead of a meeting, because you want to discuss and make an actionable insight based on it. How many times do you turn up at a meeting and wonder who's actually read what you've been trying to share and talk about in the first place? Quite often.
Did you see the report? And people put their hands up or not? That's kind of how.
Well, the great thing on the story is when you log on, you can actually see exactly who has viewed it and looked at it, because everything is tracked and audited. We're actually able to say, okay, coming onto this story, these people have seen this story. So if you if you're wanting to kind of make sure people have actually seen what they're supposed to be seeing, so they're informed to actually make the decision, you won't get away with it if you kind of use the stories feature, because people will have to log in. Otherwise,
especially if you've called someone out for doing something bad and you're guilty will be punished, and you go, aha, they didn't even bother to read the report where I told them they were bad. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no more. I remember at university, one of my colleagues, or one of my friends at the time, he was doing his master's with, and he had a dissertation that he had to hand in, and then had to then go and be judged. And partway through it, he said, "Whoever asks me for the bottle of whiskey first will receive." And literally walked in, put down his bottle of whiskey on the table, and then was ready to talk to them about the thing. And nobody asked for the bottle of whiskey. He said, "Look, guys, go and look at this page, read this thing. Now, should we actually talk about what I've written, or have you actually read it?"
Like Taskmaster, isn't it? Yeah. I watched that very British program, although it's syndicated worldwide. But there's always one thing that says in the task something like, they always have a gotcha where it says in the last line it'll say something like, ignore all the previous statements and just open the box, you know. And they've read through the long complicated instructions, but they didn't read the last part. Yes. Anyway, we kind of got off the subject a little bit there. I think, you know, probably need some more coffee to wake us up. Yes, exactly. But let's grind on with the subject. So use AI-assisted NLQ to ask questions. Well, we've kind of talked about that, I think, a little bit. Open up AI-assisted NLQ from within a story to ask a follow-up question. That's interesting. I didn't even know you could do that, actually, to be fair. And add the results to the story, so you can actually augment the story.
This is if you're writing the story, obviously. Not if you're a reader of the story. You don't get that option. But
yeah, there's roles, isn't there? I mean, one person is like the author, and others are viewers, and the viewers don't get the same abilities as the person who is. So you can create a story and then update it, is what you're saying. You know, you could create it this week and then go back and update it the following week, and so it could be a continuing narrative of this month's. You know, I don't know what you want to call it, but data, and then each week you open it up, or each couple of days, or even daily, you open it up and augment it further with updated information or something like that.
Yeah,
you could do that. Yes. This was more about, as you're writing the story, whether that's in one sitting or over multiple sittings. You know, whenever it is. If you want to just add another report, you can either browse for an existing one, or there's a button there which you just click NLQ, and it will allow you to then use the AI to help you to ask the question, rather than having to go off and use the report builder to do it yourself.
I like the line at the bottom of the slide which says, "Watch this space carefully. There's lots more on the way, ladies and gentlemen." Very good.
There is. It's coming soon. 9/18 will have a feast of new features, which I'm not going to describe.
I've seen emails buzzing around about what's coming. So yeah, I mean, I did get to, you know, I'm in the pipeline of what's going on, and it's exciting times. I honestly, I say this, you know, I mean, obviously I'm a professional host and it's my job to be here and stuff like that, but I can only talk about things I actually genuinely care about. I'm not that much of a hypocrite that I can say nice things about a horrible product. I could try, but I think it would. I'm not a very good actor. I think it would show through. But Yellowfin is one of those brands that I love the product. I think it has got all the features you could ever want. It's a no-brainer to me. If I was still working in the industries I used to work in, Yellowfin would be something where I go, you know what, that's the answer. That's what we need. And I really mean that. I think it's interesting stuff. Ask a question. Oh, I think we've got a video here. Let me just see if that will play. Yes, it will.
Yeah. So this is the data set that Rob found on the UK car data, and I think the key thing here is the term eco-friendly. So eco-friendly doesn't exist in the data set, as I mentioned earlier. You know, we've got petrol, diesel, hybrid. But we've got a great graph that comes up, and we now want to compare it to something else. Always, when you've asked a question, the next thing is you've got to follow on. Oh, I've now seen that. I want to see something different. And with the compare and the explain and having that on the live charts, that's fantastic. But the conversational AI is really, really powerful, because now we can actually generate content, get it into the format that we want just through typing in a few prompts. And because it's all built off the metadata, that semantic layer that's there and available, and everything is governed around the access to what you're asking for, you've now got the data that you should have. And it's a very, very easy way for people to allow access to that data in a very controlled manner. And then this is just an example of stories then coming into action, being able to take that data, work on it, and then actually follow up straight afterwards as well.
Speaking as someone who lives in Texas, I can tell you we don't understand the term eco-friendly. I don't think it exists in Texas. Although Tesla is based here, and you see a lot of Teslas in my building. There's probably 6 or 7 Teslas and a few Cybertrucks gently rusting as they travel around as well. So it's interesting. But yes, I mean, I went to Denmark last year and the Netherlands. And what was interesting there as well was speaking as an American temporarily. I know I've got a British accent, but I've lived here 17 years. It was actually quite interesting to see, like all the taxis, for example, in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, had to be electric. There was not, you cannot get a gas-powered or petrol-powered vehicle in there, and so eco-friendly is a very interesting concept, is particularly in Europe. Now it is becoming more relevant in the US because the prices of gas are going up, and it's almost reaching $4 a gallon, which is horrendously expensive, and I'm saying that to upset the Brits. But yeah, it's interesting. It is those kind of figures where people will go and say, if I'm buying a car, am I going to buy a car that's particularly economical to run? And even us in Texas, where we just wash every morning in petrol, coming out of our ears, it's everywhere. We are starting to become a little bit more aware of pollution's not really an issue, because of the cities are so big and wide. It doesn't really affect us like smaller sort of cities that are older and more compact. But yeah, interesting. So I mean, ask a question with the AI LLQ and use the result to create a new story. Ask a follow-up question and add the result to the same story. I think it's great. I love stories. Definitely one of my favorite features of Yellowfin, and this video really just nicely shows you how it works. This is not speeded up either. I mean, the data set, if you were using something like Exasol, we had Dirk on last week, he was talking about sub microsecond speeds and things like that, which is mind-boggling when you're talking about very, very large data sets. But we've got.
I did have to speed up a little bit of that video, but that was Rob's typing, just to
well, I didn't like to say, but yeah, I mean, but I think that when Dirk was talking, it was very interesting to emphasize that you're not alone as well. If you're adopting Yellowfin, we've got some very strong partnerships with people that are very good at managing large data sets and making everything speed up. So not only are you getting better ways of visualizing that data and exploring it and describing it, but you also can solve other problems that you may have, which is things like slow retrieval of data in the first place, which happens, particularly with organizations where their data has grown organically over time. They introduced particular data infrastructure and it was okay 6 or 7 years ago, but now, of course, things have moved on. With people like Exasol, they're wizards at it. I mean, it's mind-boggling when they talk about sub-millisecond or whatever I think he was saying to retrieve something. It's just like, I don't even know how you can do that, but great, good. Yeah, and over terabytes as well. He wasn't like talking about, no, it wasn't like some tiny little spreadsheet or something. No, it was a huge data set where they can make a massive impact. So good stuff. Okay, well, we're kind of, I think, almost at the end. Is that right, Stephen?
Yeah.
I think we are.
Yes.
We actually got through all our slides. There is a slide at the end, number 23. I don't know whether I should be showing that one or not. I think that might have been tagged on the end. It's
we could actually,
It's
because
still
well, it kind of Rob mentioned talking about any man and his dog earlier, but Rob,
this is
you're the dog expert.
My dog Bonnie with my wife Olga in the football gear, setting a Guinness World Record for the number of footballs scored in 30 seconds. Yeah.
No, Guinness World Record, really?
Yep.
That's what. So I'm assuming
that is actually a world record attempt you're watching there.
Wow. So not sub-microseconds. So Dirk, Dirk, I'm sure could speed the dog up immensely and get it doing. That's really great. I like this kind of thing. Look at her go, Bonnie. And of course, Bonnie is just like, what are we doing here? I'm ready. Just put the ball down quickly.
She knows the food's coming afterwards. It is.
Oh yeah. My dog. My dog's 14 and he's currently asleep behind me. Very well trained office dog. He knows when the camera lights are on. You know, I'm busy. Stop asking for stuff. So he just goes and lays down in his bed. But as soon as those lights go off, he's like, "Where's the dog treats?" And I do have emergency dog treats just in case. I've been there before, but yeah, good, well done, Bonnie. And Olga, did you say your wife's name is?
It is indeed, yes.
Yeah, well done, Olga, as well. A Guinness World Record. So who gets the award? Is it Bonnie or Olga?
Well, both of their names are on the certificate, but I guess.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I was going to say, I mean, technically Bonnie scored the world record there, but I think Olga probably had a hand in it or two, as we. Good job, well done. Well, that was fun. Okay, all right. So I think we actually said to be confirmed next week. We haven't actually got a title yet, have we? Is that because
no? We're still working through a short list of ideas. We'll get something there.
Yeah, so we have ground to halt, really, haven't we? That's the problem. You need to come up with more puns. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I said it twice and you didn't catch it the first time.
Yeah, you're going to mock me for that one, aren't you?
Yeah. It's I've been there and done my best. Been
there, told that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back to the stories again and knowing who's seen what, aren't we?
Yeah. TBC. To be coffee. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as I don't get roasted about it, then we're all right.
Oh no, that is just absolutely fine. Yeah, well, I believe I'm the only one who's actually drunk coffee live on here whilst to do today's presentation. Well, thanks a lot. Excellent science. I thought it was a very good topic. We've had, for those of you that are watching, go back and click on the live tab. If you're watching on YouTube or you go to our YouTube channel, click on the live tab, and also, by the way, subscribe and click on the little like button. And none of us get any extra money for doing that, but you will actually get notified next time we present anything. And also, if we do any shorts or anything like that, where we take some interesting clips out of, we know like an hour-long presentation, we try and clip out some of the shorts, which we're planning on doing as well. But clicking subscribe and like, it helps us in the sense that someone that looks like you to YouTube will actually get suggested this video as well. And I mean, obviously we're a commercial organization and it does help, we get to keep our jobs if the company is making money, but it also means that if we're saying something useful and someone like you liked it, then someone that looks like you to Google or YouTube is also going to get the video suggested as well, which helps us grow. So it's quite useful for us to do that. We are here at the same time every week, which was an hour ago. So whatever your time is now is an hour and 15 minutes ago. And by the way, if Rob, lift your left hand up, right hand up. Oh, right hand. Yeah. Okay. Just point like that. Point to your head. There you go. So where Rob has got his hand, there's a little QR code. If you scan that, you'll go to our sandbox. It's at sandbox.yellowfinbi.com. and you can log into the sandbox and have a play with Yellowfin yourself, completely free. There's no, credit card required or anything like that. Just try it and have a look and see what you think of Yellowfin. I personally, as I said before, I'm not a hypocrite, and I actually genuinely believe it's a product that deserves people to have at least a play around with it, just to see if it's going to solve some problems for you. And
news this week for anybody who registers and signs up on the sandbox, you get an email straight out with credentials to access into it. But it's been updated this week with additional code libraries as well. So we have the REST API that allows you to talk to Yellowfin, but we've now got fully fledged samples or libraries covering both Delphi, Java, C# and TypeScript, and the links for those are all within the email. So it makes it super easy to just kind of get on and code and use it straight away. And there's samples there that show you how to do single sign-on.
I think Montana is coming back soon as well, isn't he, with some demos or something like that? I think, is that right?
So, yeah, we've got some demo stuff that's being worked through at the moment. We'll be around.
It's going to be awkward next Thursday, because I think next Thursday is England versus USA if they both get through.
We might need to skip next week then. Actually, no, it would be at the wrong time. So it's.
Well, no, it won't be live at the same time. So, but the problem I have is it depends on who wins, whether I can walk around outside and in what shirt I can wear when I do it. Yes, I'm hoping.
But I'll have a look. So.
Yeah, I think it's a while off, but I mean, good luck to all the teams involved, but particularly good luck to. I should say the United States, but actually I supported England for much longer. So go England, England! I can still say it.
Yeah, no, the US and England are on the opposite sides of the draw, so.
I had to go with my daughter to urgent care. See, she sprained her ankle. She's okay, and in the vehicle we started talking about the football. And I was trying to explain to her Vindaloo. Now she's 25 and she does know a lot about British culture, but she's never come across the Vindaloo, and trying to explain it to him. Fat Les or whatever his name was just didn't get it. She's like, so they sing that. I'm like, yeah. It's quite a popular song, and people.
I'm loving the Norwegian row at the moment. The woo.
It's been fantastic.
Was it last World Cup we had the slow clap from one of the other Nordic countries? I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's impressive stuff. But anyway, a lot of fun. Okay, well, thanks a lot, Rob, and thanks a lot, Stephen. And we'll be back again next time, same time next week. For those of you that are watching us live, and those of you are watching us live, subscribe and you'll find out more, and try the sandbox out, sandbox.yellowfinbi.com. Until then, thanks a lot. Bye, guys.
Bye.